Hello everyone, welcome to DHS Informatics. This is Android Part 3 session. In this session, I am going to cover how to send a data from one activity to another activity and implicit intent. In the previous part, that is part 2, we discussed about explicit intent. So in this session, I am going to explain how to send the data from one activity to another activity. So here I have one example. So main activity is my current activity and I am moving to next activity, which is called next. So I'll send one value to next activity in the key value form. So put extra method accepts key value pairs. So where value, whatever the value you are going to assign, that you can access through this key. So for example, we can see here extracting message from previous activity. How we can access it? Using that key, whatever the key we are going to assign. So here we are using get string extra method and we are passing a key here. So based on that key, it is going to extract a data and store in string str. Next thing we have is implicit intent. These intents do not name a target and the field for the component name is left blank. So here this implicit intent is going to interact with other applications. So here for example, if I want to fetch any image, so that time what I'll do, from my application to I'll connect to gallery application, or else if I want to capture an image from my application, that time I'll open camera application. It means my application is different and camera application is different. So I'll call camera application through my application. So for example, we have here is http://www.dhsinformatics.com. So whenever I am going to write these 3 lines of code in one particular button, so I'll just create one button. So once I click on that button, it should open www.dhsinformatics.com. So once I click on that particular button, it is going to open this URL in the Chrome or whichever the browser I want, I can open it. You can see another point we have is implicit intents are often used to activate components in other application. It means when here from our application we are calling another application. Now we can see how programmatically we can send data from one activity to another activity. So I'll create an activity name called send data explicit intent. Next, and select the empty activity and click on next and just uncheck this and click on finish. So here I'll create one button. I'll just delete this text view. I'll just do this text view and I'll take one particular edit text here. This is a text and we have text view also. So I'll pick a text view and I'll take one button here. So I'll take one. So this text view ID is edit text. What I can give here as I can just modify this text view as change here as et_data and here I'll give it as enter data. So once I do, here I'll just give button name as send value. Once it is done, your front end will look like this. So your front end now. Now what I'll do, I'll take that edit text here. Whatever the text I'm going to enter, I want it here, edit text. What I'll do, find view by r.id dot et underscore data. That I'll take. And next we have our button. Button, again find view by id r dot id dot, I'll give button. So button is here. So I'll say this as a data and this as a send. I'll just declare these two values. So next I'll just declare this value also. So I'll make it as private button send. Once it is done, what I need now, I'll just click send, means send dot set on click list now. Once I provide a value in the edit text, I'll click on send button. Once I click on send button, what it should do, it should send some value. What is the value I'm going to provide in edit text now, that value it should send to next activity. So what I'm going to do here is, I'll just click that button. If I click that button, I'm calling set on click listener and I'm putting on click listener. I'm just calling, I'm creating object of on click listener and I'm overriding on click method. So here I'll just create intent I is equal to new intent. So here from main activity, means this activity, I need to send the data to which activity? Second activity. Your second activity dot class. So once I do like this, I give start activity, and this is what, this is my explicit intent. From one activity to another activity, and I'm just redirecting. So I'll just create one more activity here. So how to create an activity? Just right click on this particular package, right click, new activity, empty activity. So here I'll give activity name as a second and I'll give finish. So now second activity is created. So here what I should do now, I want to send the data from this main activity, means first activity to second activity. So what is my data? Whatever the data I'm going to provide in a edit text. So what I'll do here, I want to send a data. So which method I have? Dot put extra. So what is the key value? I'll give it as val and value as data. So if I give like this, it will give a error because this data only, this particular field, it will only accept string value. So data is in edit text format. So what I should do now, I should convert it. So value is equal to, I'll just data. From data what I want text first. So get a text method out to string. So to string, I want it in the string format. So which value I will pass now? Value. This value I am going to pass now. So once it is done, I'll go to send activity. Inside the send activity, so we have or else I'll take one text view here. So also value text view. So it is empty now. So I'll access a value by find view by id r.id dot text view. So what I'll give now here, I'll just give text view. So once it is done, I just want to set the value. So set is equal to. So what I'll do, I'll just declare this variable. How to declare? Private text view set. Once I do this one, so now want value from which activity? From the first activity. So intent I is equal to get intent method. So using what I can access it? Using. So now I'll use I dot get string extra method. So here what I should pass? I should pass the key. What is the key here? Val. Because I use that key here. You can see this key only I should use here. So where I'm going to store it? In the string value. String data is equal to, I got the value from that activity. So now how I can display that particular data? I can use text view here. So how I can display? Set is my text view. Set dot set text method. So here I'll pass my data so that it will display that information here. So once it is done, I'll just run the application. I'll just run my application. Once I click OK, it will start executing on the emulator. Emulator is started now. So now emulator is started. My application is installing now. Here you can see, here was bottom. So it should be this ID, bottom 2. So that ID I pasted here. So once I run this application, it will open like this. You can see some data. It is coming like this. So again, if I want to enter any value, I should clear it and I should enter here. So that's why what we can do, instead of giving it as a text, you can here, instead of giving it as a text, I can make it as a hint. What hint exactly it will do is, hint is going to make that particular text as a placeholder there. It will make that value as a placeholder. To make a value as a placeholder, what I should use? Hint. So once again, if I run the application, so here you can see now it is acting like a placeholder. If you want, you can write your data here directly. So what I'll give my data as DHS Informatics, and I'll send a value. So what it should do? It should display a value here. So again, if I send another data, for example, I'll just send some data. So you can see that value is sent to the next activity. Like this, from one activity to another activity, I can send the data. And the main important thing here is, you should know about toast messages. If you want some data to display for a few seconds of time, or else if you want to know which data it is sending, like that, if you want to know, instead of using the text view, what you can do, you can directly see the value using toast message. So how we can do is, after this, I'll just use toast. So here, this activity. So here, if you want, you can write get application context, means this particular activity. From this activity only, I should print value is. You can print that whatever value. So data. So length short is there. If you want, you can make it as a length long. And I'll just run the application now. So what this toast will do is, it is going to display information for a few seconds. So instead of taking the text wave and setting the value, what you can do, you can directly use a toast message to see the value. For example, I'll give here some value. I'll just click on send value. You can see value is Ashwini. So in text view also we are displaying. If I want, I can remove this text view also, because I'm getting a value in the next activity only. So now if I give here as again, if I send the data, you can see post messages. The value is DHS. For few seconds of time, it will display the information and it will disappear. For that only we will be using toast message. So toast message is very helpful, because if I want to know which data I am passing in which activity, so where I am passing, whether I am getting a proper value or not. In every activity I can't use set text or text to weave, so I can't use that one. So what I'll do, instead of using text, I can directly use toast message to see that value. Understood? So from one activity to another activity, how we can send the data, and what is the importance of this hint. What this hint will do, you can try it. If you give a text here, it will act like a text. So you should clear the value and you should enter a new value. If you make it as a hint, what it will give? It will make this information, enter data is, this information as a placeholder inside the edit text. So for example, like how we are going to use edit text, where you want to use text view, this is a more confusing, right? So remember that edit text is you are using whenever user wants to enter some data. Okay, for example, login information, user ID and password. If user want to enter, that time you will go for edit text. If user want to display some data, you will go for text view. This is the main difference. And button is simple here. So each and every value, if you want to perform any operation, you can use button. So if you want to, like if you click that button and it should perform some task, means you are going to use buttons only. For buttons there is no confusion. For edit text and text view there will be a confusion. So edit text you will be using when user wants to enter some data. So text view we are using when user wants to display some data. That time you are going to use edit text as well as text view. So this is for what? From one activity to another activity, how we can transfer a data. For that we use this one. So here you can see text set put extra method we use. So name and value pair, we will be passing those information to where send activity. So using that key, I am extracting the value and storing in the data, and that data only I am displaying, and that data only I am displaying as a toast message. So this toast is also very important. This is for what? Sending a data from one activity to another activity. So now another thing we learned, that is implicit intent. From one application to another application, how we can interact. So I'll give implicit intent. I'll give next empty activity only. Just uncheck it and finish. So what implicit intent will do? It will call or it will interact from your application to another application. For example, if you want some data to be searched, like for example IEEE.DHS Informatics, I want that data. If I want that URI, whatever the http://dhsinformatics.com I am using, if I want to search that particular URL, so what I can do, I can provide that information to one button. If I click on that button, it will directly it will ask you for Chrome or any other option. So using that you can open it. So for that, from your application you are from your application you are calling another application, right? So that is nothing but implicit intent. So here we can write that one. I'll just delete this particular information, text view, I'll just delete it. So I'll take one button, so I'll make this button as DHS. Okay, once I make it as a DHS, this is important, info constraint. If you don't do this one, all the data, whatever the data or all the information, whatever you're going to provide here, it will set to this corner, this one corner it is going to set. So that's why you should make this one. You can see info constraint will be there now, that you should click once you done with all the details, all the constraint if you add here. After that you should make it as an info constraint. Once you did that one, now what I should do, find view by id, r.id dot, what is that, button. So here what I'm going to do is button, so b is equal to, and initialize that one. I'll just declare it, not initialize. So b dot set on click listener. So once it is done, once I click on that button, what it should do, it should open that URL. So first what I'll give, intent I is equal to new intent. So here intent dot action view I'll give. So next I dot set data. Here you can see for set data we should use URI. So what I can give, URI dot parse. Here I'll give http www.dhsinformatics.com. Okay, once it is done, semicolon, last we have start activity, intent is I. So once it is done, I'll just run this application. Here is the emulator, so I'll just clear it. Okay, so once I click on this button, it will ask for open with Chrome. So I'll give just once. So you can see www.dhsinformatics.com. This URL it is going to search. So you can see those details it will open here. So like this, what we can do, we can use implicit intent. So what exactly implicit intent is? You are going to connect from your application to another application. So that's what we call it as a implicit intent. And explicit intent is in the same application only, from one activity to another activity you are going to connect. And also I explained about how to transfer data from one activity to another activity. So I hope you like this session. If you have any doubts, please do comment in the comment box. Thank you.